Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible survival stories you'll ever hear, the mission of Apollo 13. What was supposed to be a pretty standard trip to the moon, our third one in fact, turned into this desperate, nail-biting race against time. It's a story that turned a mission on the verge of failure into an unforgettable saga of survival. And it all kicked off with these five now famous words. A message delivered with shocking calm from over 300,000 kilometers away, signaling that something had gone terribly, terribly wrong in the blackness of space. And that's really the big question we're digging into, right? Because this isn't just a story about a technical failure. Oh no. It's about what happens when human ingenuity is pushed to its absolute limit. All right, so to really get what went wrong, you gotta understand where things were at the time. It's April 1970. And believe it or not, going to the moon was starting to feel, well, almost ordinary. Just look at these numbers. They tell a wild story. After the whole world stopped to watch Apollo 11 land on the moon, public excitement just fell off a cliff. For Apollo 13, the crowd was tiny in comparison. It kind of seemed like the world was already over the whole miracle of space travel thing. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the spacecraft itself. It was a marvel, really. You had the command module, which was basically the crew's home. Attached to that was the service module, which was its lifeline, holding all the oxygen, water, and power. And then there was the lunar module, this spidery-looking thing nicknamed Aquarius, built to take two of the guys down to the lunar surface. You know, for the first couple of days, things were so quiet, so normal. It was actually kind of funny. The biggest drama they had was astronaut Jack Swigert realizing he'd forgotten to file his taxes and having to radio Mission Control to ask for an extension. Seriously. This quote from Mission Control just says it all. About 2 days in, someone joked that they were bored to tears. Little did they know that in just a few hours, boredom would feel like the world's greatest luxury. And then, bang. In a single instant, everything changed. The boring, routine flight became a desperate fight to stay alive. So get this, the crew had just wrapped up a TV broadcast that, funnily enough, none of the major networks even bothered to air live. A little while later, Mission Control asks them to stir the cryogenic tanks, a totally normal everyday procedure. And then, a moment later, bam! A huge bang rocks the entire ship, and a whole Christmas tree of warning lights and alarms starts blaring. So what happened? Well, the crazy part is this whole disaster started with a tiny, almost unnoticeable mistake back on Earth. Years before the mission, an oxygen tank was accidentally dropped just a couple of inches. Nobody thought much of it, but the wiring inside was damaged. Then, during a test, it got superheated. So basically, it was a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off. And that routine stir, that was the spark. Okay, so now the command module is dying. It's bleeding oxygen, it's losing power, and Mission Control and the crew have to make a choice, like right now. An impossible choice. They basically had two paths home, and honestly, both of them were terrifying. Option A, fire up the main engine and pull a U-turn straight back to Earth. The problem? That engine was sitting right next to the explosion. What if it was damaged? Option B, take the scenic route. Keep going, loop around the moon, and use its gravity to slingshot back home. The problem there? It would take 4 to 5 days, and they almost certainly didn't have enough supplies to last that long. In the end, they went with the long shot. The only way was to completely shut down the command module to save its batteries for re-entry and cram all 3 astronauts into the lunar module. Remember Aquarius? This little lander, designed to keep 2 guys alive for just 2 days on the moon, now had to be a lifeboat for 3 men for 4 agonizing days in deep space. And just to put that in perspective, as they swung around the dark side of the moon, completely cut off from Earth, they set a new record, the farthest human beings have ever been from our planet. Can you even imagine how alone they must have felt out there in the dark? So, they're in the lifeboat, but the real test? Oh, it was just beginning. The lunar module wasn't built for this, and a whole new set of deadly problems started popping up, one right after the other. First up, a huge problem: breathing. The 3 of them were exhaling so much carbon dioxide that the air was literally becoming poisonous. The lunar module's system couldn't handle it. Now, they had spare CO2 filters, but they were in the powered-down command module. And here's the kicker: those filters were square. The openings in the lunar module's system, they were circular. It was the definition of a square peg in a round hole problem hundreds of thousands of kilometers from home. Back on the ground, things were frantic. They literally dumped a pile of everything the astronauts had on board: cardboard from a flight manual, plastic bags, socks, and of course, duct tape onto a table. They told their best engineers, figure it out, now. And they did. They built a makeshift adapter and radioed the instructions up to the crew, who built their own. It looked ridiculous, but it saved their lives. But the problems kept coming. To save every last watt of power for the final landing, they had to shut down everything that wasn't absolutely essential. That included the heat. The temperature inside plunged to near freezing. Water was so scarce they were rationed to just a few sips a day, and they became severely dehydrated. All told, the 3 astronauts lost a combined 14 kilograms. That's over 30 pounds. Just unbelievable. After 4 grueling, freezing days, they were finally getting close to home. But here's the thing. The most dangerous part of the whole mission was still ahead of them. They had to re-enter Earth's atmosphere in a crippled, frozen spacecraft that had never, ever been designed to be restarted and flown like this. Okay, so the module hits the atmosphere, and as expected, the radio goes dead. It's called the blackout. It's supposed to last 3 minutes. So everyone waits. 3 minutes pass. Silence, then 3.5. 4 minutes, a whole minute overdue. At this point in mission control and all around the world, you can just feel the hope draining from the room. And then, after 4 minutes and 27 seconds, a voice crackles through the static. They've made it. They were alive. The crew splashed down, safe and sound, in the Pacific. They never walked on the moon, but what they did instead was maybe, just maybe, even more important. And that's why this mission is forever known as the successful failure. Yeah, the original plan fell apart, but the new plan? The improvised goal of getting 3 humans home from the brink of death against all odds? That was an absolute spectacular success. It became this timeless story of what people can do when they just refuse to quit. So, what really saved them in the end? It wasn't just one thing. It was this incredible, seamless teamwork between the guys in space and the team on the ground. It was cool-headed leadership when everything was going wrong, and it was just this brilliant ability to throw out the rulebook and innovate with whatever you've got. You know, the lessons learned from Apollo 13 led to countless safety fixes that made space travel way safer for everyone who came after them. But it was also this terrifying reminder of just how risky it all is. And maybe that's part of the reason why, just a few missions later, after Apollo 17, we stopped going to the moon. The story of Apollo 13 shows us humanity at its absolute best, but it also leaves us with this big, lingering question. Why did we stop?